Now, to be fair, I've only seen the first 6 episodes, but I can still say with the utmost confidence that Daredevil Season 3 is hands down the best season of comic book television I have ever seen. Oh my God, it's so good! But don't worry, this is a non-spoiler review. I didn't know if I could do it, but I managed to dance around it, yet still convey the awesomeness of what I have witnessed. Okay, now the reason this is so good is because, one, this show has done the work. It's laid the groundwork in the first 2 seasons, and now it can hit the ground running. It kind of runs, we'll discuss. And then 2, it finally gives fans what we want. Daredevil versus Kingpin. Mano, but with Bullseye caught in between. What I mean by that is there's Bullseye's in the mix. Kingpin isn't like a couple of characters away from Daredevil, right? This is it. This is the 2 of them battling it out. And it's amazing. 2 heavyweights going up against each other. Oh, so good. It's as good as you would think it would be. And isn't that refreshing? And I would say that after a convoluted, yet still excellent season 2, which almost felt, and we all agree on this, like 2 mini seasons stitched together, right? The Punisher season and the Elektra season. Season 3 is stripped down, almost Dark Knight style, come to think of it, to a mix of 3 intense character studies. How awesome is that, right? You're like, that's exactly what I want. But then also intense action scenes or intense mind games where Kingpin is concerned. He might get into the action later on, but not in the 6 episodes that I saw. But again, it's still like 50-50 with him and Daredevil. He is not backburnered or, behind the scenes in any way. It's so good. Now, it's also impressive that season 3 can start out as a slow burn with Matt Murdock questioning his beliefs and his purpose, and yet still be vastly entertaining. Plus, it's a nice throwback to the days when the Catholic Church was a strong support system rather than having the more, it's not an image, it's an actuality, unfortunately, having a predatory nature to it, right? And Joanne Whalley, by the way, does Ingrid Bergman proud, for those of you who've seen The Bells of St. Mary's, right? And you should, very good movie. But Joanne Whalley does Bergman proud as a nun from Murdoch's childhood who must once again help him overcome his anger. I thought their discussions were fascinating, and that they can have really interesting religious discussions in a comic book show is exactly what you would expect from Daredevil, because that's his whole thing. But while they're a slow burn, the first few episodes are anything but slow. That's because Murdoch's personal struggle is cross-cut with Wilson Fisk cleverly positioning himself for a comeback and the tease that fan favorite Vanessa is on her way back to his side and the show. She didn't show up in the first 6 episodes, so I can't promise you or hint at anything for sure. Don't want to get your hopes up. My hopes are up, though. Oh, I'm excited. And also, seeing him in his classic white suit doesn't hurt either. So great. We also get to see Murdoch's close friends, Foggy and Karen, not only struggling with his loss and then his sudden return. Damn you, Matt! You're not an easy person to be friends with, but that's what makes you so interesting, right? But we also get the best picture we've seen yet of the lives that they've each built for themselves since Nelson and Murdoch closed its doors. Well, that's a nice way to put it. They kind of bailed on him also. But, since then, it's interesting to see how friends evolve even in real life. And I think that's captured in this fictional show. And they done good. I'm very proud of both of them. Not only as characters within the show, but the fact that they're no longer annoying. As you might recall, wasn't always a fan of Karen, right? But she's become fabulous. They're both excellent supporting characters that we now genuinely care about, right? And they also can contribute and move the overall story forward. Isn't that nice? What supporting characters are supposed to do. Plus, Kingpin starts putting them both in danger as pieces on his chessboard in his strategy against Murdoch. Then there's Bullseye, whose entrance into the series is nothing short of brilliant in its subtlety, as it dawns on us and Kingpin exactly who we're dealing with. I thought that was just, again, so clever, so well done. It's amazing how it washes over you, the realization. Oh, I can't wait for you to experience it. And thanks to a deep dive into Bullseye's psychological profile, right, this version of the character manages to be both terrifying and sympathetic. So far, I actually feel bad for the guy. Wilson Bethel is as much Bullseye as Charlie Cox is Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio is Kingpin. And considering how much we love those two characters, that's quite the compliment to Wilson Bethel indeed. He does have a chin that looks exactly like Sebastian Stan, though. I will agree with many of you on that, because when he made his debut in the trailer, I was like, it's clear who that is. And I was interested that many of you were like, Sebastian Stan? Wilson Bethel is going to start going after those Sebastian Stan roles. Although on a side note, I'm surprised that Daredevil, as well received and as popular as it is, hasn't led to, opportunities outside of the show really for Charlie Cox or Vincent D'Onofrio. Wake up, casting directors. These guys are brilliant. All right, then those action scenes. Episode 4 has the hallway fight to end all hallway fights. As I said in my recent trailer reaction, it's so tense, exciting, and ambitious. I was like, are you really going to try and do this? You are! You did it! That I was holding my iPad so tightly as I watched it unfold that I can literally say that Daredevil is gripping television. It's great. I was also completely blown away by the extended action sequence in episode 6. And by the way, you might be like, why are you telling me what episodes these happen in, Grace? Because it is a little bit of a slow burn, and I want you to know that action is coming, okay? For those of you who maybe aren't as committed or as into it as I was. I don't see how that could be the case, but just in case, I'm putting in these little safety nets of episode 4 and episode 6. So episode 6 has an extended action sequence where Bullseye and Daredevil square off for the first time. And I'm not going to tell you the circumstances, and I found myself genuinely afraid for everyone's safety going up against Bullseye, even Matt Murdock. And it's wonderful to see a classic villain live up to expectations and raise the stakes exponentially as they should. And speaking of classic villains who raise the stakes exponentially, of course that also applies to Kingpin, who's working through Bullseye and also through other back channels, as the character is so famous for doing. But again, he's in the mix. I would say this is 50% his show for sure, which is what we wanted, what we've been hoping for, what we've been waiting for, and it's so great to finally get that. Finally, while other shows make quite a point about having a diverse roster behind the camera, remember Jessica Jones was like, all female directors, right? And on camera, by the way, this season also adds Jay Ali as Agent Nadeem. He's, it's a straight man role. It's not a flashy role, but so far so good from what I've seen in the first 6 episodes. But while Daredevil season 3 hasn't called attention to their diverse behind the camera talent, and I think, maybe it's a mix. Do you want to call attention to it, right? Is that like trying too hard? Should you let the work speak for itself? But if you don't call attention to it, how do you make sure people know that it's happening? And I'll tell you why I want you to know it's happening. Because the most important thing that this group has done, and hats off to everybody in the group, not just the diverse members, but the thinking is when you diversify the behind the camera talent, it's going to change what you're seeing on camera. But I think it's important to point out that this group has delivered an incredibly comics accurate depiction of Daredevil and one of his strongest stories ever in any medium. They made it better. They made it, and they didn't, change it just for the sake of changing it. And while I know it's supposed to be based on Born Again and to some degree is, a significant amount here is changed, and I think it really does stand on its own as its own story. By the way, you should always pay attention to the credits when you're watching a show, especially if you're really into the business, so that you know who's working on what you're watching. So you can also pay attention to their careers, and also if you're interested in such a career, so that you know the players, right? And kudos, by the way, to showrunner Eric Olafson, coming off of Arrow of all places. I can't believe that he was able to deliver this based on what I'm hearing about Arrow, especially recently. I can't wait to watch the rest of the show. So that's my review of Daredevil Season 3. Spoiler review coming when the season debuts. So be sure to share your own thoughts down below. If you've somehow gotten a wind of spoilers, don't ruin anything for anybody, right? And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.